Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Faith and Bigora.
This week, we'll be doing the horror classic Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, starring Bruce Campbell, and that's about it.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. Go to our page on Facebook at the podcast that wouldn't die. Go to our page on Twitter at tpodcasttwdie. Email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at
Gmail.
We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc. And Aaron, you have your own special Twitter account.
The Cult of Aaron. Join the cult.
So join the cult. Now, Aaron, give us the quick 30-second synopsis of Evil Dead 2.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because I'm going to have a quick 4-minute discussion about the movie that we're not going to review because it was so boring.
This is important. Okay, hit us with that first.
Okay, we watched, because it had good buzz, a girl walks home alone at night.
Yep.
Vampires in Iran.
That's correct.
The premise sounded interesting. It got all kinds of good buzz, and I don't know what the clothing. It's not a burqa because that covers your whole body, but it's whatever the Muslim clothing that goes over your head and falls to the ground. It's like a giant cape.
Right.
I should be more culturally aware. It's like a giant cape that also covers your head, and so imagine that as a girl vampire. That was a cool look, right? That was a cool look. And she's the feminist vampire, kinda, righting the wrongs, feeding on the bad people, kind of like a Dexter, I don't know.
Right.
It was a little similar to our Swedish vampire film about lonely people finding each other. But beyond that, it was boring as hell. I kept waiting for something interesting to happen. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack was really interesting. I kind of enjoyed the music. It was, you don't hear a lot of Middle Eastern music here in California. So it was some good jamming music. Yep. And that's all I got to say, because the rest of it is boring as hell. And it was filmed over here in Taft, where they filmed, what is it?
The Best of Times?
No, well, Best of Times, but There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood, yes.
Yeah, because I was like, it's interesting to think that little Taft looks like some remote city in Iran.
It is the cultural epicenter of Kern County. I've often heard it said. So there
Shut your mouth. Mother used to tell us that there used to be horribly racist signs on your way to Kern in her days living here.
You mean used to? Interesting.
I once applied for a teaching job there, and I never got a call back. So there you go. They sense my liberality.
That must be it. So what we both watched, or we both found it just kind of uninteresting. So uninteresting. I mean, we'll do uninteresting, but this was so uninteresting, it wasn't even worth talking about.
Leprechaun was uninteresting, but at least there were things you could goof on.
Right.
This was just like, what?
No can do.
Something needs to happen. Too many long shots. And I was trying to get into the cinematography, but I couldn't do it.
I was out. I was falling asleep.
There were a couple of good shots, but I was like, that is not enough.
We took a hard pass. After kicking $3.99 to Amazon Prime, we took a hard pass. So there you have it.
And you think the curious thing would be this movie is all in Farsi with subtitles.
Yep.
Yet filmed in California.
Yep. Deep California.
I will tell you, half the cast members look like they might be Mexican. So I don't know.
They were not. You racist.
I know. I did look at the end, but I guess there's flexibility in casting anyway.
So tell us about Evil Dead 2, damn it.
So let's roll on over to Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is the remake of Evil Dead 1, except they camped it up and put that hook at the end so you can roll right over to Evil Dead 3, which is really Army of Darkness.
Correct.
Which is my preferred of the trilogy. Is Evil Dead 1 and Army of Darkness.
Well, it all depends what we're talking about. What's confusing about Evil Dead 2 is it almost starts out like it's a direct sequel of the first one, but it's hard to explain. Basically, he's driving to this cabin, and he's
are you telling my part, dude? Are you telling my part?
No,
don't make me come through this phone.
No, but because he's talking about I'm going to this cabin. I've been there before. So you're just like, wait a minute. In the first movie, all your friends were murdered by evil demons. Why are you going back to this? But then you realize he's talking to his girlfriend, Linda. And Linda was also the name of the girlfriend from the first movie.
Right.
So you realize at that point, at least the first half hour, 45 minutes is meant to be a remake. But that's when the moment she's dead and he gets possessed, that's when it kicks over to being the sequel. It's a bizarre remake / sequel.
It is bizarre. And all right. I'm just going to tell you what happens.
Go for it.
And then you can tell me why you love it. And I'll tell you why it's not as good. All right. Dude and girlfriend in haunted cabin. Girl becomes possessed. Guy has to kill her. More people arrive. More possessions. Evil Book of the Dead. Once again, we gotta put the genie back into the bottle because sister's crazy dad decided it was a good idea to read from some cursed text. Boy survives again, so maybe he's the bad luck. Everybody's dead, but boy gets sucked through a Wizard of Oz tornado, but he don't end up in the land of Oz. He ends up in some medieval time in some parallel world full of knights and deadites. The end.
Very good. Looking good. I actually I think I saw Evil Dead 2 before I saw The Evil Dead, which is the original movie. And this was just when I started my love affair with Bruce Campbell.
And Sam Raimi.
And Sam Raimi, who has a cameo in this movie, if you're paying attention.
I was not. I actually have no. I know what his crazy brother looks like.
Who's also in this movie.
What?
Yep. Ted Raimi is also in this.
Oh my God! Actually, I never knew what Sam Raimi looked like, but yeah, just his crazy brother from Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, let's just jump right in. So Bruce Campbell, Ash, is driving to the cabin in the woods, but it's kind of weird. He's going with his girlfriend, Linda, and it seems like the cabin is their destination, wouldn't you say? Like they're driving.
And it's so freaking remote, I would assume that was the plan.
That was their plan. I mean, but it's not their cabin. It belongs. So they're basically going to a remote cabin in the woods that does not belong to them to break in and to squat in some stranger's cabin. Is that what's occurring?
Exactly, because you'd have to see the first one because I think they explained it a little bit more. And frankly, they rearranged all the sets. So things that were in the basement or the shed are now in the living room. Yeah, it was never, I thought it was somebody's friend's family's cabin.
I think that was the case.
In this movie, there are no friends.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. In the first one,
there are no friends in this one, or they're all dead in the first 20-second rehash. Where we are now, here we are.
No, again, in the beginning of the original movie, there were 5 people who go to the cabin.
Right.
For budgetary reasons, they cut it down to just Ash and his girlfriend for this one.
I thought this was their big budget version because the other one took like 5 years and they filmed it on everybody's spring break in college.
Right. Well,
so you're saying this is more budgeting, or was everyone just a volunteer?
It's hard to explain, but we'll get there. Okay.
Is it hard to explain because you don't know?
No, I do. I know. Trust me. So they're driving to this cabin, and I get where we're like, honey, we're going to go break into some random cabin in the middle of the forest. Hope that's
and
cool.
drive 12 hours to get there because there's clearly nowhere anywhere in sight.
Exactly.
And no groceries, I noticed. No
Not
groceries.
At all. So they get there. They slide on in. It's a romantic time. He's bought her a crazy necklace pendant that looks like a magnifying glass. I don't know what the significance of that is. It's all very fancy.
It looked like an old grandma's magnifying glass,
right, or a monocle or something.
I think it was popular in the 80s because it had that kind of old timey look.
Oh yeah, it was good times. So he discovers a reel-to-reel tape recorder and plays it, and discovers that the actual owners of this place are like historian archaeologists who, in the castle of Kandar, they discovered the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, which is the Book of the Dead.
Weren't they Sumerian in the first movie?
Yes,
and then they realized that Sumeria is like Iraq, so that doesn't quite match with all this shit.
It's entirely possible what the thought process was. Who knows? So the old couple that live in the cabin translated the ancient texts, which caused the archaeologist's wife to become possessed and throw her in the basement. And we don't know at this point what happened to the ancient archaeologist. But
no, and it's fairly easy to get possessed. Somebody look at you the wrong way, you're possessed.
Right.
Somebody bite your hand, you're possessed. Get raped by a tree, you're possessed.
And sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes you're dancing in the window and you're possessed.
Boom.
There's no place to go. So,
but apparently the spirits are not geniuses, because apparently if you're smart, you can hide from them, and then they give up and leave.
Yes.
They assume you've disappeared.
That's the comic relief. When the evil spirit's chasing Ash through the cabin, and Ash, I guess, jumps into the root cellar in a second and a half and loses the crazy haunted spirit.
I do find Bruce Campbell in these Sam Raimi films delightful.
He is great.
He is delightful. Great. Why is he not our friend?
He should be, for God's
us.
sakes.
I mean, I even saw the terrible Bubba Hotep. You know, that's how dedicated I was.
I've seen that as well. There you go. Good times. Where he's Elvis. Somebody who thinks he's Elvis, or is he really Elvis?
Is he really Elvis? Yeah.
Fighting off an evil mummy. So there you go. Check that out. So Linda gets possessed because in the recording, the ancient archaeologist reads off the Kandarian passages, which brings the spirits of the demons, and she gets possessed by a demon. So now she tries to kill Ash, and he defends himself by knocking her head off with a shovel.
Oh my God, that is the sharpest shovel. I will tell you, I was just digging in my garden. I was literally jumping up and down just trying to cut roots.
Yeah.
But apparently, I gotta go. Is that Home Depot, Lowe's, where you get like the samurai sword,
the razor sharp shovel? It doesn't take much. She does some.
It's just like,
yeah. She does some kind of crazy aerobics,
like a Ginsu knife.
Hurdles at him, and he just slices the air, and that's all she wrote. He promptly, okay, look. If I murdered my possessed girlfriend with a shovel, I might just jump in the car and go to the cops at that point. He does not. He promptly buries her, makes a cross.
He buries her in a pile of rocks.
Of charcoal is what it looked like to me. It was hard
to me. It looked like shiny
obsidian
river rocks. Yeah. It was it's Game of Thrones. It's dragon glass.
He was digging because it was very bizarre. I don't know if it was just too hard to dig in an actual ground, so they just planted a bunch of this black charcoal all over the ground.
They're in the frickin' forest.
So, oh sweet Jesus, she pops up again. Although now she looks all zombified.
Yeah. Advanced decom.
And
she's been buried for like 15 minutes, so her lower half looks like beef jerky.
It's
like she's been on the top of Mount Everest like for a year and a half.
Exactly. He has to fight her a second time in kind of a Three Stooges kind of way, where there's a lot of him getting popped in the head and banging his head. He finally her head falls into his lap, bites his hand.
I thought, honestly, it would have been funnier if she bit something else, since her head was right there. I guess they needed to save it so the kids could watch.
So he's running through the house with her head biting his hand. He's smashing into walls, all for comedic sake.
That's classic comedy. You can hear all these severed things all make sounds, like they all have voices, so you can hear it crunching on his head and laughing while he's banging it into walls and stuff.
So
comedy relief.
He goes and takes the head into the work shed, which he knows is there, which is good to know, puts a head in a vise and is opening up a cupboard to get the chainsaw to handle his biz. Chainsaw. There's the headless Linda's body holding the chainsaw, comes at him, and it's all fun and games at that point. So there you have it.
I do love some good claymation, and I do love a little decapitated chainsaw thing where the head's telling the body which way to go.
That's always we saw that in Demon Knight, where the guy gets his head knocked off. It's always a crowd pleaser. Let me tell you.
This is better than Demon Knight.
Okay. I love it. Let's get on. Okay. So he tries to escape. He jumps in.
I said it's better than Demon Knight.
I'm with you.
You're ready to fight me.
The faceless demon spirit is chasing Ash. He jumps in his car, tries to escape, but he discovers that the bridge has now been destroyed. So there is no escape for poor Ash. He also dabbles with being possessed himself. This happens multiple times where he is possessed, but then the sun comes out and shines on him and it brings him back from his possession, or he sees Linda's necklace, and that kind of brings him back. So, I mean, this begs the question, if he's able to come back, how come no one else is? Good question. I think so.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, because the sun came out. So if you could stay alive while you're possessed and the sun shines on you, it drives the demons away. They're like vampire demons.
Well, that's the other thing. If he's like, hey, I'm cool, how come he's not more sympathetic to other people who get possessed? Later in the movie,
why doesn't he chain him up and drag him out into the sun?
Later in the movie, that's
not his way.
It's only like, hey, I'm cool, kill everybody else. That's basically the moral of the story. That's my mother down there. No, we can't let her out. She's possessed. That's 5 minutes ago. Possessed in 5 minutes. She's possessed. I'm cool though. I'm all right. Don't hit me with the axe.
And it's fantastic because when she's possessed, it's clearly like some crazy looking man. It's not the woman who's playing her unpossessed mother in any way whatsoever. I know. So it makes it even
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. So smash cut. You've got the daughter of the old couple who own the place, Annie, and I guess her his name is.
We'll call him.
We can call him that, but that's not his name. His name is Ed. Ed and Annie arrive by plane with the missing pages to the Necronomicon. So they're rushing over to their parents so they can continue doing, the studies, I guess, which can only be done not on a university campus, but in the woods.
Or in the country where they're studying it, where you can go and get more research.
No can do. Yeah. So they try to get up to the cabin and, of course, discover the other side of the bridge is broken up. There they meet Jake and Bobby Joe, the
most mismatched couple that the Lord had ever put together.
I thought they were brother and sister at one point, but no.
She was sitting on his lap.
This is the Appalachians, so anything goes at this stage of the game, I think. But which also begs the question, where was Ash driving from?
I believe this is Michigan. Isn't this Michigan?
Well, she's wearing a Michigan State t-shirt, Linda is at the beginning of the movie. But they've got thick, like, Tennessee accents or something. So this was a long drive to go to a cabin they didn't even know was there. So
it was a personal choice for the actor.
Clearly. Jake and Bobby Joe say, we'll help you. Hey, there's a trail I can take you. Just follow me. Just give me $100 and I'll lead you up to the cabin. So they're on their way. Ash is now alone with the possessed house. It's severely possessed. The buck.
It's stage 4.
Believe
possession.
You me. The crazy trophy on the wall of the buck was laughing at him. At one point, an evil demon jumps out of the mirror and kind of grabs him for a moment. And then his hand gets possessed. It was very sad.
Just an aside before I forget. The possessed elk over the fireplace. There was someone on Twitter who does little possessed doll houses. And literally, there's a place where you can source a miniature Evil Dead 2 elk if you need it for your tiny possessed
But
dollhouse.
you definitely need it.
But she posted it on the Twitter. I was like, oh my God. It was like had its head turned sideways laughing.
That's important.
So
his hand gets possessed, starts throwing him around the room, bashing plates upside his head. He's about to grab the meat cleaver and get at poor Ash. Ash stabs the hand to the ground and chops it off with the chainsaw. So now he's down a hand. So the hand will play a role later in the movie. At one point, he throws like a bucket on top of it, saying, "This is your home now," and put some books on it. Do you see what the top book was that he put on top?
No, tell me.
Farewell to Arms.
Wah, wah. I love Sam Raimi.
This is good.
Campbell.
This is good comedy. Let me tell you. So
I didn't say I hated it. I just like the other one more.
Good to know. A subtle distinction.
Shut up.
So yeah, it is. He shoves an oily rag on his stump and wraps it in duct tape. He's good to go.
He has minimal pain receptors.
Clearly. So he grabs the shotgun. When the whole room flips out and starts laughing at him, he hears a noise. Somebody knocks at the door. He shoots with the shotgun through the door. And of course, that's when Annie, Ed, Jake, and Bobby Joe arrive.
It's always a good idea just to shoot through a door first. The police like that when you do that.
Jake tackles poor Ash, and one-handed Ash proceeds to pummel Jake until Ed holds his stump down and Jake punches him back. So there's a lot of people just getting punched in the face, again, with comedic sound effects. It's great. Annie walks in, doesn't know who Ash is, because again, this is not Ash's house. He's a squatter at this point. And she wants to know where her folks are, and she sees the bloody chainsaw in a corner. So she's convinced Ash has murdered her parents. They toss old Ash into the root cellar, and then play the recording, at which point that's when the grand reveal is, yes, the old archaeologist read the ancient incantations, and yes, your mother was possessed, and I did kill her, but I did not dismember her like you're supposed to. I just buried her in the root cellar down below.
Well, quite frankly, how much dismembering do you need? Because he cut off his girlfriend's head. She popped right back up.
And he chopped his own hand off. The hand's still running around. So who the heck knows? It's hard to say. At that precise moment, the evil, possessed corpse grandmother pops out of the ground saying, "I'll swallow your soul," to poor Ashley. She approaches Ashley.
It was so creepy.
Do you not recognize the actor who played old possessed Henrietta?
Are you saying that's Sam Raimi's
Spoiler
brother?
alert, that is Ted Raimi as the old possessed grandmother.
How would you ever recognize him? Because Ted Raimi was not this big blobulous
He's
person.
a method actor. This is what he does.
He's wearing a fat rotten suit.
Look, he just submerges himself in the character. That's what he does, okay?
I always say there should be more
Ted Raimi all the time. So he's approaching poor Ash. Eventually, Annie and the gang realize that Ash wasn't the one who did it. It's actually the evil creature down below. They rescue. They pull Ash up, but not before Henrietta has become a crazy ostrich dinosaur type of creature with its head.
Yeah. I'm not digging it.
It was very strange. This
is their special effects budget, why they couldn't get 5 people at the beginning. It all went to ostrich.
That is correct.
People.
So she's trying to pull Ash back down. Ed comes up and again tries to punch the creature a couple times. The creature throws Ed against the wall. He's knocked unconscious. Eventually, oh God.
I mean, these creatures are not very successful, and they're not that violent. I mean, they possess you, but there's no torture porn. They're not very good. They might bite you.
They're trying to bite at you.
Ash does more damage, causes more things to fly around the room.
That is
than
absolutely
the
true. So Ash slams the door shut on Henrietta's head, which causes an eyeball to squirt out, fly across the room, and of course go right into Bobby Joe's mouth.
A signature Sam
Yep.
Raimi move, because you cannot have a Sam Raimi move without junk flying into
Yep.
someone's mouth, something disgusting that makes you want to barf. And that was only one of a couple of things that flew.
You better
into
believe it.
people's
Well,
mouths.
anytime Ash is dealing with kind of blood or slop, it's always splashing him right in his face while he's screaming.
right in his open,
Yes.
open mouth.
Yes,
It's so
it's lovely.
disgusting. And it's not even just in the Ash movies. If you ever saw Drag Me to Hell, same thing.
I watched it once. I
Crap.
will not be watching that movie again because it's the exact same thing. It's
I've seen it.
gross. It's things popping.
It's disgusting.
This movie,
But I've seen
this
it 4
movie
times.
sounds violent and disgusting, but I'll tell you what, it is not.
It
It's
is
very
not.
campy. All the kind of bodily fluids you see are all kind of. It's like paint, is what it looks like. It's like black paint or
Yeah.
green paint or red paint.
Everything is It's like you're not going to confuse it for any
No,
real
not at all.
bodily
Not at all.
function.
So they kick her head down into the root cellar, and now they're all gangs, and it's like we're all cool. They realize though that the pages that Annie found, they could use those to end the craziness, but not before Ed pops up, and now he's possessed. Please.
Let me ask you a question. I thought they had the freaking book. So where are these bonus
They were
pages?
bonus pages. They said, I don't know, they were in a different.
They were in a later edition of the Necronomicon.
That's what I'm saying. It was in the second edition, I guess. It's hard to say.
the Reader Digest
That's what I'm
condensed
saying.
version that carried these pages.
Now, why is Ed possessed? Who knows? Nothing. I mean, I guess he got thrown across the wall, the room, and bashed into the wall, and knocked unconscious. But
I think it's like yawning. You know, one person yawns, another person starts yawning. One person gets possessed, and it's
that's all it
contagious
takes.
that way.
And I have to say, Ed's mask does not move at all. It's like speaking, but its mouth doesn't open and close. It was hard sledding. Let me tell you. So he's now possessed, and the possessed Henrietta's saying, Ed, let me out, let me out. He tries to go. They try to stop. He throws Jake around, seemingly breaks Jake's neck, but then he's fine 5 minutes later. He tries to bite Bobby Joe's hair and succeeds. He's eating her hair. Eventually, Ash runs to the other room, grabs an axe, and chops down poor Ed, sending green slime spattering all over the room. Very sad.
Thankfully, this house is very
Yes,
well fortified.
That's correct. Which earlier in the movie, the demon was chasing Ed through it, smashing through doors. Off camera, evidently, Ash repaired the doors and the windows. If you look, like they're all boarded up. Where did this happen? We're not showing that, but evidently he handled that. Thankfully. So, good Lord, there's a scene where they hear a noise from the other room now, and Ash is like, "We'll all go in together." To which Jake says, like hell, you're the curious one. So there's a lot of good comedy there. They go in there, and that's when they discover the possessed spirit of their father, who tells them the whole story. Read the last pages, and you'll be able to end this and save our souls, essentially.
If he's possessed, how is it that he is telling them how to defeat
It's hard to know
demon?
what exactly happened to him. We don't know. Nothing. We know he killed his wife. They're kind of fuzzy on the details after that. But his ghostly spirit.
He looks like somebody from like the Seventh
Right.
Seal or something that's floating around.
Yes. Well, clearly they spent about 5 minutes on his ghost makeup, so that was good. At this point, Bobby Joe says, "Honey, you're holding my hand too tight, baby. I ain't holding your hand." And she looks down and she sees the disembodied hand of Ash, which is all zombified, squeezing her hand. Then the lights go out. Smash, bad
That's
sign.
a bad
Smash cut
sign.
to Bobby Joe running through the forest by herself. And she's attacked by the trees and murdered, seemingly, off camera.
Well, luckily they cut out the rape scene.
Thankfully
that was
for
in the
that.
First one.
We can be thankful for that at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, ew.
Ash and Annie get over Bobby Joe's disappearance in about 30 seconds. and are they're very
People are really android-like with the loss of loved ones. It's always like, it's not, I can't go on. I'm just going to lay here until the demon takes me. They just shrug it off and go on.
Well, keeping in mind, Annie's fiance was murdered mere 5 minutes ago, and she's not batting an eyelash. Jake is the only one who's moving right on to Bruce. Almost said Bruce Willis. She's rubbing his well-muscled biceps while poor Jake is staring out the window. Where are you, girl? Where are you?
Oh my God! She is dressed. Let me describe this for our viewers that may not remember. She's dressed like an '80s prep, and he is dressed like Goober at the gas station in Mayberry with soil overalls, a big old belly, and literally so gapped tooth that you could probably put a tooth in between every other tooth. And literally, the body language when they're supposedly scared and he has his arms wrapped around her is rigid. Never at any time are they face to face where any of their special parts could possibly be touching. It's okay. It's always the sidearm hug. The sidearm hug. Like, clearly you're a molester, but it's the way you hug your
crazy uncle that you're not too sure about.
Exactly.
Clearly. So yes, Jake and Bobby Joe, not star-crossed lovers, as we could clearly see. And so Jake's like, we have to go looking for her. And Ash turns to him, he's like, yeah, if she went out there, she's dead. You can forget about her. Yeah, get over it, big guy. He's trying to get Annie.
He's the only one that actually shows any emotion.
Well, again, Bruce Campbell had to murder his girlfriend an hour earlier. They're all a little sympathy, perhaps. You walked in these shoes a moment ago. Give him a minute, please. Clearly not. He's trying to get Annie to start reading the incantations, and evidently there's 2 incantations. The first one makes the evil spirits physical, flesh, right? The second one is after their flesh, then you open up a portal which will suck them away.
It's a little
so that's the way it's got to go, basically, at this stage of the game. Finally, Jake snaps, takes the shotgun, and says, we're going to go out and look for Bobby Joe. He takes the only pages of the manuscript that can end it and tosses them down into the fruit cellar with demonic Henrietta. This is just some mumbo jumbo.
That seems
logical.
This
ain't gonna do nothing. Right.
There's demons flying around, but clearly
magic does not exist. So he forces them out at gunpoint to look for Bobby Joe. And he hits Bruce Campbell with the shotgun multiple times, which of course causes Bruce Campbell to become possessed once more. So that's good. He pops up, grabs Jake, throws him against the tree. Annie runs back inside, closes the door, picks up a crazy, sacrificial knife made out of, a spine or something that was sitting next to the book in ancient Khandaria.
Well, that came with the book.
You got to get them
both.
It was
a buy one, get one.
So she opens the door and just starts stabbing. Sadly, Jake was the one who was coming into the door. So she stabs poor Jake.
Once again, people, don't just start stabbing. The police would appreciate it if you would at least see who is at the door.
Make sure you're stabbing something that you're supposed to be stabbing, is basically the moral of the story. Bruce Campbell, now possessed, is now trying to get Ash, I should say, is now trying to get into the house. It takes him 15 minutes to turn the corner. At which point she's slamming the door on poor Jake's body multiple times. And she's like, I'll pull you a little bit forward. Now I'm going to slam the door. Oh, no, now I'm slamming the door on your legs.
Oh, my God. Like if you just keep slamming the door, eventually it will smash you a 200-pound
Eventually
man.
She does close the door. She drags poor old Jake into the other room. I don't know what her plan is exactly, but of course she puts him right next to. She puts him right next to the door to the root cellar, and of course, demonic Henrietta pops up, grabs poor old Jake, pulls him into the fruit cellar, along with a deluge of blood. Just like more blood than could possibly be in 20 people. Just because.
I just want to point out that they chained the root cellar, but they
That is
left a
correct.
3-foot gap. I would tighten up on that chain of might, because literally, if you can pull a hillbilly through, a demon should be able to crawl
heck of
out
a good
easily.
point. You're absolutely right.
As we discussed in previous episodes, if you can get your head through, the rest is coming too.
So poor Jake is dead. Oh, Lord. Eventually, Bruce Campbell snaps out of it. He finds Linda's monocle, pendant, whatever it is, finds it. Magnifying glass. It's not a monocle. Mr. Peanut. And he sees it, and that kind of snaps him out of it. He's like, okay, I'm okay now. But of course, Annie is the only one left who's not been possessed, and she's coming at him with the axe. Chop, chop. She's pissed.
Well, she's just pissed.
He was a devil, and he's getting pissed at her. What? I said I'm okay now. What? Hey!
That's all it takes.
Right.
A demon could
Do you
lie.
hear me? I say I'm all right now. He eventually convinces her, God knows how, and to which she says, okay, for now, but, what about later? We kind of gloss over. This is a good question. There's no answer to this question. But they realize if we're going to get out of this, we got to get those pages. So they promptly go into the work shed. And because Ash doesn't have a hand, they come up with some kind of plan where they attach the chainsaw to his stump. Like he's some kind of cyborg now, I guess. With a series of straps, he's able to turn it on by itself. She sends him down in there. He saws off the barrel of the shotgun. So now he's like, I don't know, some kind of post-apocalyptic road warrior. I don't know what's happening. He goes down into the cellar with the chainsaw and everything. Finds the pages, but of course gets attacked by Henrietta on his way out, who promptly turns into a long-neck ostrich dinosaur-like creature.
Another one.
Crazy. It's all very crazy. So
they went with the theme and ran with it.
Hilarious. So he's fighting with this thing. He throws the papers to Annie, who's reading the incantation to turn the spirit physical while he's fighting the crazy ostrich creature. He can never get it with the chainsaw, but he's able to punch it with his other hand multiple times. Very,
yeah, which makes
no damn sense. Eventually, Annie distracts the ostrich creature by singing "Hush, Little Baby,"
which is what her mother used to sing with her, and when the demon was trying to trick her,
that's correct.
Her mother sang to her,
"Hush,"
which is a horrible song.
I sing that to my
way.
children. Damn it!
It's all about. That's why what's wrong with America now? It's all that bribery.
Well, I typically sing.
If you don't like that, love me.
That's
I'll buy you
correct. I
something
typically
more
sing
expensive.
the James Taylor version. If I could, Mockingbird now, and everybody have you heard? Anyway, that's not a here nor there.
God.
So while she's distracted, now he's able to start chopping things off on the creature. The headless, oh God, the ostrich head rolls by his foot screaming, I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul. And Bruce Campbell pulls out his shotgun and gives the immortal line, swallow this, and blows and shoots the creature by his foot with the shotgun. Look, I'm not a hunter, but I imagine his foot would take about half those shots. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. Yeah, so that's the end of Henrietta. But now the creature is now possessed. So now there's like kind of a Lovecraftian face coming through the door. The trees are attacking the house from the outside. There's a big old hand comes in, grabs Ash.
Oh, yeah. It looked like Never-Ending Story, Biz.
It was the rock biter coming to get poor Ash. Ash, at this point, seeing...
Atreyu! you.
Right. Artax. Anyway, Ash sees the creature and it frightens him so much he gets a weird stripe of white in his hair.
Oh my God! It was so
very much.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. And she's about to finish up the final incantation to cast the demons away, but she gets stabbed in the back by the disembodied hand, which again crawls around on the floor like a rat. Somehow it picked up a 3-foot long knife and jumped up and
it has It has the strength to pick it up and
stabs
fly.
it in the back, stabs her in the back before she can deliver the last lines. The demon, like heads are popping out of the demon, like the Thing, basically saying, "We've won, we've won." But her last breath, she says the final word, which causes like a vortex to appear and starts sucking everything in. She probably dies. Ash is like, "Oh, thank goodness." But of course, the vortex is still going on. He gets sucked out. Clearly, he's attached to some kind of harness, flopping around in the wind. He gets sucked into it. Earlier in the movie,
I mean, it was sucking in the whole world. I mean, what closes the portal? It just runs for 20 minutes, or just until the world disappears?
How do we shut it off? But by then, there's nobody listening. Yep. Earlier in the movie, Annie and Ash were flipping through the Necronomicon, and they say how in 1300 AD, a hero came and defeated the demons for all time, at which point Ash goes like, "Well, he did right."
Well, apparently
that's
not
what he
for
says.
all time.
He clearly didn't do that good of a job then, did he? So,
nor did he recognize that is in fact
the grand
himself.
reveal. When he gets sucked in, he's sent back to 1300 AD, drops from the sky, shoots a flying demon creature, at which point Sam Raimi opens up his knight's mask and says, "Here he is, the chosen one, come to rescue us from the Deadites."
Was that Sam Raimi?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's
no
so
accent.
young there, too.
Just doing his regular Sam Raimi voice. Supposed to be England or something. And Ash goes, "No, no." So that's how the movie ends. Setting up Army of Darkness.
Right. And yet, when we go to Army of Darkness, they have to reset up and retell the tale again, too. Because it's not a clean whatever over. So dragons and stuff, where do I see they're actually Deadites?
It's all the Deadites.
Oh, my God. Okay, now I'm just going to tell you why Evil Dead 1 is better than Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 1 has some truly scary moments in it, versus Evil Dead 2 is more just campy, wacky.
That's what they were going. Well, what they said, if we're going to kind of bounce in and out of behind the scenes, what they said, I read Bruce Campbell's book, If Chimps Could Talk. Bruce Campbell basically said they wanted to make a movie, and they knew that it would be easier for them to make a horror movie, even though that wasn't necessarily their preferred genre. Like they could,
what is their preferred genre?
No, they like comedy.
Art house.
They're all
terms of endearment.
They want to make terms of endearment. That was the one that got away. Sensibility.
Sensibility.
Sweet Jesus. Yes, they love the Jane Austen book club. So they were like, we can more easily whip out a horror movie. You know, you need one set. You're good to go. We'll hire our buddies to do this. 5 or 6 years later, now Sam Raimi is still kind of a struggling director. And he had made this movie, kind of a comedy crime movie called Crime Wave, which was supposed to star Bruce Campbell. But the studio was like, we're not letting kind of a relatively unknown director and a relatively unknown star. So they recast it. One of your knucklehead friends. Bruce Campbell like a little role in the movie. Recast it. Regardless, Crime Wave was a big flop. So at this point, they're like, we got to get something in the books. So the studio was like, hey, if you make another Evil Dead, we'll distribute it. Now, they didn't say they'd finance it, but they said we would distribute it. So they were like, crap, what do we do? Stephen King, who actually had helped them get financing for the original movie. Not financing, but helped them find distribution for the original movie. He said, I'll get you financing to make the sequel. He was like their patron. So
bless you. Is there anything Stephen King can't do? He recovered from the crack cocaine, wrote some of the best.
Well, then he wrote a lot of
books
that weren't quite so good, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, well, but we forgive that because of his current war
that's true.
With our current president.
So he convinced producer Dino De Laurentiis, who was a big producer at that time, to give them financing. So that's what they did. Now originally they said they needed $4 million, but they only got 3.5, which means when they went back to rewrite the script, originally they were going to kind of restart it, because Evil Dead ends, the original Evil Dead, when they throw the Necronomicon in the fire. So it's destroyed, and that's what kind of saves the day. But at the end of the movie, there's kind of that shock, kind of the Carrie thing.
Right. It's not quite over.
The spirit kind of rushes up behind Bruce Campbell at the end of the first movie. He turns around, and that's where it ends.
And that's how the new one begins.
Basically, they're like, we're going to go and kind of redo the beginning. But we're going to kind of change the tone. We got rid of all the friends. We got rid of your sister. We got, so now it's just you and Linda. And we're going to do a kind of a truncated version of that first story. And then we're going to continue off with the faceless, sightless spirit coming up behind Bruce. And we're going to continue the rest of the movie, was their plans. And that's what they did. But because, like I said, horror was not their favorite genre. So now they're like, yes, we're doing Evil Dead, but it's going to be much campier.
I'm sorry. I think I had more belly laughs in the first one with 1,000 little Bruce Campbells running around.
That's
and
Army
his
of
head
Darkness.
Stuck to the fireplace with the spatula.
That's all Army of Darkness.
Oh,
yes.
God. Oh my God. Okay, this is then I'm going to talk about the scariest part. The scariest part in Evil Dead 1 is there's two things. One, someone gets stabbed in the foot with a pencil. That was rough. And then the other one with the possessed girls are in the fruit cellar going,
right,
we're gonna get you.
It was good.
That was great.
The first movie was definitely, the intent was to be scary. That's what they were going for. It was scary
and funny at the same time.
Because you're a freak. It was definitely, it was scary and it was gross. It was much more kind of like when the bodies like decompose at the end, you're like, oh, good, yeah.
It was clearly, it's like right out of the old, let's make everything out of wax.
That's basically what it was. This one, they're like, yes, it's Evil Dead, but clearly they're not concerned about being frightening anymore. It's not really scary.
No, they cut out all the kind of scary parts because the first one was scary. I mean, the only thing I didn't like about it is somebody gets raped by a vine. That's very creepy.
So anyway, yes. This one's much more slapsticky. So even when it's like they're killing like a demon, like again, it doesn't closely approximate bodily fluids, and you don't really see anything. They don't show, it's all off camera. Then you see somebody like throw a bucket of blood at like that dangling light in the shed kind of thing. So you don't really see anything, and it's funnier. And I have to tell you, when I remember going to the movie theater in the early 90s and seeing the poster for Army of Darkness, and I'm like, am I hallucinating? Are they really? After all, it probably had been 5 years or 6 years, and they came out with the sequel because but they didn't say Evil Dead 3. It was just Army of Darkness. And if you didn't know any better, you'd be totally lost. So you're sitting there, but I'm like, looking at him like, he's got a chainsaw in his hand. This is absolutely a sequel to Evil Dead 2. So, and again, Army of Darkness, another great movie we'll have to do at some point. This is where it's like, we aren't even pretending we're trying to be scary. This is just a flat out comedy. That's what we're going for. So, good times. So this is the one that really put Bruce Campbell on the map for whatever that's worth. Okay. And now he didn't exactly set the world on fire in the 90s. He got Army of Darkness. He was in Briscoe County Jr.
Oh, he was on Ellen, right. Her very first.
He was on Ellen. He was on.
She played his boss.
Course, sporadically on like Hercules and Xena. He'd pop up every now and again. In the aughts, he was in that show Burn Notice on USA. I actually started watching it when I found out he was on it. He was good. He was good. He is the hammiest actor you will ever see. And God bless him.
That's why that's his hook, man. Hey, nobody cares when Kevin Costner's Kevin Costner
true.
in every role.
Hopefully, this isn't the way Bruce Campbell acts when he's not filming. Let me just say that because it's.
I hope that this is pure Bruce Campbell, like you saw him at the Applebee's, and that's
Jesus.
Him.
Let me tell you some other of these interesting facts that I found.
Let me throw out one right here. Sam Raimi in 2019 said yes.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so you've got The Evil Dead. You got Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. You got Army of Darkness. Then there was the Evil Dead remake, which I haven't seen, which came out I don't know, 10 years ago, give or take. And
What? I don't think I saw
there's
that.
more.
And there's Evil Dead
Evil
the
Dead
musical.
was Evil Dead was the remake.
Oh my God! Tell
and
me
actually
more.
Bruce Campbell makes a surprise cameo at the end. Then there was Ash versus the Evil Dead, which is a series that's still on Netflix right now. Were you unaware of that? Are you out of your damn mind? It ran for 3 seasons on Showtime. It's on Netflix.
Oh, maybe
it's on
you told
Netflix
me to
right
watch
now
it, and
for free.
I got bored with it. Is it worthwhile?
I enjoyed it. I watched like the first season or so. I kind of ran out of steam.
You lost interest
because every episode is it's kind of gross. There's a lot of just like slime, and so I was like, okay, moving on. And eventually, there's only so much. I mean, I'm doing the sign of the cross. There's only so much of the shtick that the Bruce Campbell shtick that I can take in a concentrated amount. You know what I'm saying? But Sam Raimi was involved, and like you said, it's like they finally canceled it after 3 seasons. And Bruce Campbell said that he was retiring the character, but Sam Raimi has come out since then and said Evil Dead will return. So we'll see what happens. We're all over the map. Who knows what it means?
And tell
you
us
can
who
do
the
that
Shemps
work,
are.
but I'm going to tell you other things that I found in the mid-90s.
All right.
Kurt Russell's in a movie called Escape from L.A., right? Which is kind of that sequel / remake thing that he did. Bruce Campbell has a small role in that as the mayor of Beverly Hills, or not the mayor, the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills. And when Kurt Russell found out he was in this, he kept going up to Bruce Campbell and jokingly asking him to say the word work shed. And the reason why Bruce Campbell didn't know what the hell he was talking about is because in Evil Dead 2, there's a bizarro voiceover where that they clearly had done like in post, where Bruce Campbell is like, I'm going to take the head to go chop it up into this room, but I need to tell the audience what this room is. So spontaneously, I just say work shed. Like you see him running up and you see a voiceover go, work shed. So Kurt Russell found that hilarious and kept having him say it. He was like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
Work shed.
Not a shed. Not just a shed.
It's a work shed.
For work. A work shed.
There you go. Good times. So the producers insisted they use all the different colors of blood in order to avoid an X rating.
Yes, I've heard that in The Thing. They gave him an X rating,
X rating anyway. So it was ultimately released unrated.
Lord, and literally, it's gross, but it's not like
it is nothing.
Real violence.
That's kind of the thing about the MPAA, where it's just kind of like whoever happens to be looking at it at that time, whatever they're feeling. There isn't like any guidelines. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just up the creek. It's very sad. It's very true. Like we said, zombified Henrietta was played by Ted Raimi, Sam's little brother. And so he had to wear this huge suit to simulate the decomposing body, and it was so hot that he was literally sweating like liters of sweat in it. And at one point where the creature's kind of floating across the room, you can see sweat like literally pouring out of the suit. Lovely. So go back and watch that if you're of a mind. Good times.
That is terrible.
What else can I tell you? There were times in this movie where it's like you would see the fog kind of rolling in or rolling backwards. And there were times where Bruce Campbell was like stepping out of the cabin and there was fog in the cabin. You're like, what in the hell is happening? So good times had by all. Now, at the time they were making this movie, the Sam Raimi was living with the Coen brothers, Frances McDormand and Holly Hunter. And actually the Bobby Joe character was inspired by Holly Hunter. So there you have it.
Oh, that is lovely.
It's an all family affair, let me tell you.
You notice I've stopped talking because I'm trying to Google because I think you're wrong about
Feel free to Google who. Do you know who you're talking to?
I literally Googled Little Ashes and you get
no, don't do that. Okay, there's one. Okay, I have to say this. This is hilarious. So I'm looking at IMDb to get some of my information. And the very first thing it lists under quotes.
Yes.
It says Ash, and the famous quote is, groovy, but in parentheses right before the word groovy, it says, for no apparent reason. This is important. Oh, good Lord. Anything else before we move on with our lives?
Sam Raimi and all the Evil Dead thing, they are the ones who came up with the shemps, and it's to indicate any actor who's unrecognizable.
Well, it's usually a stand-in
of all
or something.
their makeup. Stand-in.
Well, do you know where that
one
term
of the main
comes
characters
from?
who you cannot recognize.
Right. There was a period.
The Three Stooges.
For Three Stooges aficionados like myself. We all know Larry Moe Curly, but there was a time when the older brother Shemp was the third Stooge, not Curly.
And you're always
and the problem is, like many of the brothers, Howard, he died at a very young age. So what they had to do...
Oh, my God. At what young age? Because they all look like they were 80s.
Well, Curly died.
The 30s,
Curly and Shemp both died in their 40s.
What?
They were 40 rough years.
Like 110.
Hard life.
It was a hard life.
So
it was a hard life being a stooge. Getting anvils dropped on
they
your
weren't
head,
dropping anvils at people's heads.
Out.
That's like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Anyway, when Shemp died suddenly, they basically hired actors to be stand-ins. They put like a wig on them to finish filming whatever, like the few shorts that they were trying to finish, basically. So they'd have a fake Shemp. Because Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are such fans of the Three Stooges, they kind of incorporated that into their thing as well. So there are times where it's like a character is meant to be played by a certain actor. For whatever reason, they'll have a stand-in for that actor, and that's what they call the fake Shemp. So that if you look in the credits, look for fake Shemps in every Sam Raimi movie. Also, now you got me on this Jag. The car that Bruce Campbell drives, if you're paying attention, also appears in every Sam Raimi movie, including
when it dropped out of the sky.
Including
at the end of
The
this
Quick
one,
and the
I was
Dead,
like, "Oh, that's
if you're paying attention," which is a Western about gunfighting.
Wait,
so yes, it's in every Sam
was
Raimi
The Quick
movie.
of the
It's his
Dead?
good luck charm, according to him. So check that out. So.
Oh,
there
my Lord. I will tell you that I'm very angry, but you seem to be correct about all the tiny
Just most
ashes.
of the time. So there you have it.
I still say Evil Dead 1 better than Evil Dead 2. It goes Evil Dead 1, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
And here's a fun fact. I just took my VHS tape of Evil Dead and took it to Goodwill.
Well, I might have waited till I had other things to take to Goodwill as well. I wouldn't just bring that by itself. Good to know.
There were other things in the box. I just decided it's time to let it go.
Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast, TWDie. You have to go to both and follow both because they are different. Email us thoughts, feelings, comments to at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die at Gmail. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Like, share, subscribe, and rate. And make 12 of your friends do the same. Damn it. So, yeah, good times. And Aaron, you're also on Twitter. Lay it on us.
The Cult of Aaron. But I want to share with this. Google, when I'm Googling Evil Dead, one of the top things for me, my suggestions, Evil Dead, all parts in Hindi. What is that? Why does that pop up for me?
You are very international.
I like to think that I'm international.
So, thank you very much, and be well.